You're listening to Tags Live, episode 648. On this episode, host Stevie V clears up just when he actually got engaged. We're talking trans news, from a Texas bill that would make identifying as trans illegal to a gym that will only allow biological women. Can you spell gonorrhea? More importantly, do you know the correct way to take Doxypep? We discuss. Fingering 101, what works and what doesn't. Is there a difference between gay muscle versus straight muscles? We get into it on this episode of Tags Podcast.
What is going on? You are watching and, of course, listening to Tags Live, aka Talk About Gay Sex, the live edition, where we're here every Wednesday night on the Crowdcast platform. I am your host, Stevie V. This is episode 648. Sitting next to me in studio, Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
It's me. Hello, darlings. I'm doing wonderful. This is a beautiful evening. I'm here with my boo, and I'm here with all my other boos. So I can't wait to have fun on this show.
Absolutely. We are in front of a live virtual audience. I see some familiar faces. I see James. I see Bryce. And as you all trickle in, I know Diego is in there somewhere.
Hey, Diego.
And Bryce says, is this the first time I'm seeing you both on the same mic? Yeah.
Are we Superman now?
Can you hear us okay, Bryce? I hope so, because we were testing out the mic for a second, and I hope we sound okay. Hello, Diego. Let us know. Yes, we have a full show ahead of you. We're super excited. And I first wanted to just address something that I said on episode 647 that dropped on yesterday. And I somehow skipped a step, but I basically said that we were talking about what we're looking forward to this spring, summer. And one of the things that I said that maybe went under the radar, but not according to some of our listeners, was I am planning my wedding for late August, early September. And apparently some of you were like, wait, did I miss something? Are you engaged? When did you get engaged? And I realized, yep, I skipped a step. And so to clear things up, yes, I became engaged with my partner Diego on January 26th. And it was really a beautiful time. It was right after my birthday. It was a really beautiful moment here, actually, on this couch, believe it or not. You're in the part of Diego is played by Kodi right now. We won't reenact it, darling, I promise. Yeah.
You're mad at me, darling.
It happened on this couch, which is kind of cool. And yes, and so I am engaged, and we are planning like I said, a late summer, early fall TBD based on a venue. And so, yeah, so it's really cool. And
congratulations, Phil.
I will document as
this. Put that on loudspeaker. I've congratulated you plenty of times.
You have.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Kodi has been there for you will be there as well. And yes, and I'll be documenting it a lot on this show. So stay tuned for that. It's an exciting time. And Duran says, so nice to see you both sitting next to each other. I know.
Right. We're all going to be sitting next to each other again. I want to see when that happens.
Yes, exactly. So there's that explanation. I just have to say, free Wendy, if that's just... Free Wendy.
Free Wendy.
I'm talking about Wendy Williams. That's all I'm going to say on that. We're not going to spend too much time on that, but free Wendy. Okay, we have a bunch of news in trans news today. You know, we got to celebrate when we talk about our LGBTQ plus, our transgender community is really the one that, you know, they make up 1% of the population. Yes. And they are the low-hanging fruit right now that the right seems to want to target, including a Texas bill that would make identifying as transgender a felony, punishable by jail. And I saw a whole interview on these two guys that are trying to put this up. The good news is it doesn't look like this bill has a lot of weight to it. But in the interview that I saw, Kodi, they were essentially saying that they want to protect little girls. So, of course, it's targeting trans women, of course, and ignoring that there's trans men too, but protecting little girls and also from sports. We all know the argument, can transgender play in female sports? And that's that ongoing debate. And it's this argument that they're putting towards a bill that would basically, if you were transgender, you had reassignment surgery, you just identified as being transgender, that if you put that in any document, it would be punishable by law. And when I listen to these guys talk a little bit more in an interview, they basically view transgender as a mental illness. And by mental illness, they say we are aligned with helping them realize that they have a mental illness. Last time I checked, identifying as anything other as transgender, it's not a mental illness, it's an identification. And again, we're going after that 1%, the marginalized community that is pervasive. We're about to do a couple more stories that you're going to see. But when you hear this about a law that probably won't go into effect, we hope, knock on wood, but what are your thoughts about that, Kodi?
Yeah, I just think they're trying to do everything that they can in order to separate and kind of corner the trans community to where they feel very isolated and that they're very vulnerable and exposed. And of course they are. And I think that this bill is trying to do that more and more and more. It's not really about protecting young girls because honestly, or women's sports, because honestly, trans women, they're generally speaking, they're attracted to men in my personal experience. And I feel like for them, they are not necessarily trying to do anything to women in bathrooms. That's not the case. Or they're not trying to infiltrate women's sports because a lot of them are just trying to be femme girls. They're just trying to be girly girls out here in the world. They're not trying to play basketball or soccer or any of those things. So I think that it's really about them and their predisposed biases. And I really think they need to just get over that. And this bill is not going to do anything to help anyone. It's only going to do something to separate us more. And that's not what we need. And we need to do what we can in order to fight against injustices like this.
Yeah, it's basically fear mongering towards a marginalized community that really doesn't have the statistics to back it up. I mean, really, if we wanted to look at community, we would look at young white men. Who is responsible for the amount of shootings that have been happening in America that do not happen in other parts of the world? It's typically young, white, indoctrinated men that have been, they are the ones that we should really focus on, but we don't. We focus on this marginalized community that doesn't have the stats to back it up. We do the same things with immigrants too, and saying that they're criminals and this. Yes, there are examples of certain immigrants that have committed crimes, but the vast majority of them are just looking for a better life. And to say it's fear mongering, it is scapegoating, it is Project 2025, which they've told us they were going to do, that they're implementing now. And I just think it's disgusting, including it's happening all over the world, Kodi, because there is this fitness influencer that goes by the name of Natalie Barnett. And back in 2021, and this is actually somewhere outside of London, she was talking about opening up a gym for women called the Girl Spot back in 2021. Okay. And she raised all this money through crowdsourcing, through Shark, like on
Gymshark. They're a brand that fitness clothes, and they basically sponsored her for her new gym.
And she raised all this money. So the idea was always to open it at some point in 2025. She raised all this money. So now she's actually about to open it. At the time in 2021, this new video that's coming out on X shows her supporting all people. She says trans women are women. That's what she said in a X post back in 2021. Well, now she's switched her tune somehow and says that she didn't really think it through, didn't think her business model, I'm sure her investors love hearing that, that she didn't really think it through, but that now she only wants at the gym called the Girls the girls spot. She only wants biological women to be able to enter the gym. Now, this obviously presents a ton of issues for her investors, for the people that believed her when she said all women, trans women are women. And by the way, how are you going to enforce this at a gym? I mean, are you checking people's genitals at the front desk?
Let me get a feel.
Do we now have to put a chip on ourselves like dogs so that it says you were a biological? It's this pervasive attitude that we think that is only in America, but that is now in places like London.
Yeah.
Well, it's not working well for her because a lot of the people that invested in her want their money back, which is good because she's really going against what she said. It's that double standard of you said one thing and now you're flip-flopping. What do you think about her and this gym and what she stands for today?
I think that she was probably peer pressured into doing something like this because for me, it sounds like her initial beliefs were what she actually believes. So for her to stand there and kind of flip-flop and switch, it sounds like for me, it was peer pressure. It was people that were saying that trans women aren't women, that we wouldn't be safe. They wouldn't be safe with them in the bathroom or the changing room or things of that nature. And I just think that it's ridiculous. I think she should have stood on business. It's very disappointing to me. So she's not, for me personally, this is not what a true ally would do. I feel like a real ally would stand up to this type of peer pressure and really actually support the community. So you know what? Fly by night, if she's a fly by night ally, then she can just keep moving and keep her little gym. And I'm taking my donation back. I really honestly wonder how many trans people saw this and saw that she was so inclusive and donated to her, because I feel like that's something that they could really get behind. So that's really what I'm really curious about.
I think the positive and the good news is it's a lot of the allyship that is asking for their money back that were not trans, that believed in her statement at the beginning of it. I think when you start to make your business, why go into business today in a political divided world and start putting restrictions on what type of patrons you actually want? I think the minute you do that, you stab yourself in the heart and immediate closure of your business, because it's the same argument that, oh, I won't make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple because I don't believe in that. It's you went into business for the people. If it's an American business, you went to make cakes make the cake. Don't be political. You are not in politics here. This is not, stay in your lane. If you really want to be in politics, go to politics. But I'm sorry, if you want to open up a business, businesses are for the people. Mm-hmm. And transgender people are women, they are men. A transgender man that was a biological woman is not going to go in there because he is now a man. Mm-hmm. And she should have just stood on her ground now. Now she's in the press for the wrong reasons. And I think ultimately it sounds like a lot of people are not going to want to go to her business. And it serves her right.
Natalie looking like Boo Boo the Fool.
Okay.
Wait, I just have one question.
Yes.
Who's making your wedding cake, Boo?
Well, we have a place here in New York. Shout out to Empire Cakes. I've had a lot of birthday cakes there. We've had cake there before. It's really good. I've worked with them before. They're in Chelsea, though, I might add. And Chelsea, New York, as many of you know, is filled with LGBTQ plus people. We're also in a very blue city, New York City. So I think we're pretty safe on that. I personally wouldn't have my cake made in a place that I knew didn't support, because what are they going to poison my cake? It's
Girl, like, watch out.
And little known fact about me, I love cake. I'm like Carrie Bradshaw. She loved cake. I love cake. It's like my favorite. I love cake. Are you a cake person?
I love cake. I love it. Donuts. I love cookies.
Oh, see, no. When I say I like
pie the most. I like pie the most.
Okay.
I'm a pie girly.
And I'm a cake person and a cupcaker. But yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now I know what to get you.
Exactly. Where we do this story, move on.
Really quick.
Yeah. And lastly, in trans news, because there was so much to talk about, who could not have noticed Representative Sarah McBride? She's a Democratic representative from Delaware who was recently in a hearing. She's on the House Foreign Affairs Subcommittee, and she was being introduced because she was going to speak. And it was Representative Keith Self, who's from Texas, who was going to introduce Representative McBride. And here's how he introduced. So, little fact, Sarah McBride was inducted as a representative in her Delaware community, and she is a known trans woman, and she is for the people, and I've heard a lot of her, what she wants to implement, and she's doing really good. So when Representative Keith Self introduced her, he says, "I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride."
Mama.
Going back to the Texas law. He is from Texas. That law that we were talking about is from Texas. And what did she say? She said, "Thank you, Mr. Self." Or he said, "Thank you, Madam
Yes.
Self," which was, I thought, a good, quick read. But it was really the chairman who was running the whole operation that called out the representative from Texas and said he is completely out of line. He asked the representative to redo it and said he had no decency. "I mean, I've come to know you a little bit," he said, "but this is not decent. We will continue this hearing," Self replied. And he says, "You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way." And with that response, he canceled the whole meeting.
Yes, he did. And he did the damn thing. So
you got to watch this video. It's online. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, first of all, I was kind of questionable about Sarah McBride as far as, was she a reading queen? This answer right here shows me that she came up in the places where she had to read. She had to do her due diligence because she didn't let that one slide. It was so quick. It was so eloquent. And it was just like a little dig to them because she had it all planned out. And I live for something like that. I live for a reading queen, especially in Congress. And the second thing is Mr. Keating. He is such an ally. He is not like Natalie at all.
He is not an ally. Yeah. Huh? He is not an ally.
No, wait.
The one that called her Mr. is Keating.
I don't believe. Is that true? I'm sorry. I'm a little confused. I thought that Keating was the one that stuck up for her. And the other one. Self. Mr. Self is the one. So Mr. Keating is a true ally.
Yeah.
He stood on business. He really stood his ground as far as Sarah, what's her name again? Sarah McBride being addressed as female. And I thought that was so amazing, that we need more people like this in government in this day and age, because that it's just, what people should be standing for right now.
I think we're starting to see in this troubled times and this marginalized community that is part of our acronym, we're starting to see the true allies stand up. And when they do, it means so much more than even in times when we are so cohesive and kumbaya. It means so much more. We're really seeing our allyship stand up at the front of the line for us. And those will be the ones that will be remembered in history and that did the right thing. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And we got to shout them out for sure.
Yeah.
Well, switching gears here, recently we were talking about the passing of Tim Tales creator, Tim Kruger, that passed at such an early age with his beautiful porn. And now adult film star Roman Mercury, death confirmed as well. And it came with his friend Greg Dixon, who really took some time because he passed during the same time that Tim Kruger passed away in February. And, all the attention sort of went to Tim Kruger, but many people were huge fans of Roman Mercury. He was Brazilian. He had a huge following on X, over 400,000 followers. He made hundreds of films, and had a huge following. He was only 45, and it was confirmed that he died of hypertension, which ultimately was heart disease. And we just wanted to shout out because apparently he was really well loved in the industry. People that worked with him said that he was professional, he was kind, and his friends and loved ones, including the friend that we're talking about here, Greg Dixon, said he was just a great guy. And it's sad when somebody we lose in our industry so early at 45. And so we just wanted to shout out, and we were thinking about his friends and family at this time.
That's right. Our hearts and prayers go out to them.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this is upon us, and which is really exciting. And the recent festival that occurred in Florida, Miami to be specific, was Winter Party. I think I went one year. Did you ever go to a Winter Party?
Never.
This was when
party, but
this was when I was on the circuit a little bit more, and I would go to some of these circuit parties. I, don't do that anymore as much, but I admire a lot of them.
We can still go.
Well, there is a influencer out there by the name of Gillett Slays that decided to go around interviewing a lot of the people that were at Winterfest, and he wanted to ask the simple question, spelling bee, how do you spell gonorrhea? And it's a great video. I'll post it on tagspodcast.com. You got to watch it, because most people thought they were so confident that they could spell gonorrhea. I don't think I would pass the test.
I was going to say, can you do it right now?
Because I've looked at it.
It's
on the screen now, but most people didn't get it right. And over the years,
and see if you can still do
GONORHEA.
Almost.
Okay. Two R's. But it's a funny, hilarious.
I was looking at it. So.
Yes, thank you. And the video is hilarious because it really just, one person actually responded, I know what it is. I know how to treat it, but I don't know how to spell it. And I like that really honest answer, because I thought that's really cool. And they're getting people that are at a circuit event, look like daytime pool party, if you will, because everybody was in Speedos. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like it was 4 a.m. and they're asking people to do a spelling bee contest at the wee hours in the morning, which, can get a little crazy. But I thought most of them were good sports about it. But it got me thinking, because I just recently saw one of my doctors, who's been a fan favorite of our show, Dr. Goldstein, proctologist. He has the successful book called Butt Seriously, all about our butt and gut health. And you need to check that book out. He's about to be a guest about some new stuff coming up in the next month. But I saw him for my annual checkup to check my bum. And when I did, I wanted to get the actual things that prevent things like gonorrhea. And we all know that Doxypep has become a medication, that an antibiotic that we take that can prevent certain STIs, like the one, gonorrhea, chlamydia, just to name a few of them. But I wanted to really get, and syphilis, and I wanted to really get, what is the proper doses? Because when I was on the recent Vakaya cruise, I was talking to some of my peers, and everybody sort of had a different way that they were taking it. So I thought, I'm going to ask the source, the good doctor, Dr. Goldstein. And I said, well, how do you take it? He says, well, basically you take 2 pills, 100 milligrams each, right? And you want to take it post-exposure when you think maybe you've had like a lot of fun with somebody, up to 48 hours after post-exposure. Now, let me read a little bit more. Right. And when I was talking to some of my colleagues, a lot of them are like, oh, you just take it like daily. And I asked, well, if you thought you were having sex. And so when I asked Dr. Goldstein, well, let's just say, he's like, well, okay, let's use the example of the cruise. And maybe you're having a lot of sex on that particular cruise. Mm-hmm. What he really likes to recommend is to group it up. So let's just say you had, if it's a Friday to a Friday cruise, and you had sex Friday, Saturday, Sunday, let's just say you were really active and busy. And by no means is he shaming, and we are not shaming either.
I'm not shaming, I'm jealous.
Given the environment that he says, group it up into that 3 period, and then on the 4th day, take the 2 pills of 100 milligrams each. Like, group it up, and then maybe go about your business. And then if you had a little bit more fun, group those up. He says the idea of taking it every day, it's still an antibiotic, and you don't want to be taking something like that because then your body starts to not recognize it. We all know antibiotics aren't the greatest thing to take, but he said in a pinch, if you were really that active, let's just say you were, and again, no shame, then take it during that period of time. By all means, I mean, rather than not take it, take it.
Yes.
But he really is a proponent of grouping it up into like groups. So if it's like a week-long circuit event, group it into a couple different periods when you take it. And lastly, also be aware that if you are in a very sunny environment, taking Doxypep doesn't necessarily work well with the sun exposure. So by all means, either avoid sunlight exposure or wear your SPF. And by SPF, I mean go up to the 50 and beyond, because it doesn't interact as well when you're taking that. And that comes from the good doctor. And I just wanted to, because I think there's been a lot of misconceptions about that. Whether you know how to spell gonorrhea or not, at least you know how to prevent it and how to take your Doxypep.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I love group fun. So I love grouping up fun.
Yeah,
so,
right.
I think this is a wonderful idea. I've done this before, basically. I've taken Doxypep.
Yeah.
And I've had fun on Friday and Saturday and taken the Doxypep after the fun on Saturday. I was under the impression that it was 72 hours.
So I've heard 72 hours. He said 48. I think the idea is you want to take it sooner than later. He was probably erring a little bit more on cautious, but I think I've also heard 72, but no later than. So I think he's probably just erring on
the side of caution.
Yeah, and sooner than later, you want to get it into your system if you are trying to prevent some of these STIs. And by all means, ultimately go see your doctor and discuss this with your doctor, but also still get checked out too at the end of it, because even though these aren't guarantees that it's going to prevent it, it's just preventative. But by all means, I say if you're having fun like that, schedule a doctor appointment just to get the swabs and your blood works, just to double guarantee that you don't have it. I mean, why not? And if you're in big cities, always look out for the free clinics too, because they do exist in certain cities.
Fabulous. I love all this wonderful.
Yeah, well, you know,
teaching the children. I'm here for it.
Well, I thought I'd just ask the source, and I was like going to
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. I was like, am I the source, honey? For gonorrhea?
You are? No, you're not the source of that. We will not label you that.
GONORREA.
And we are not an easy one. My goodness, especially after a few drinks on the dance floor. No, thank you, ma'am. All right. Well, I mentioned this on Tuesday's show, and I want to mention it again until it happens, but I am taking part in a really cool event that's happening on April 13th. It's an all-day event called Follow the Flame, using sexual fantasy for personal growth, and it's being led by the one and only Finn Dearheart, who's been a guest on this show, who we love dearly, and I will be there as well. And if you find yourself in New York City, or you live here in New York City, I really encourage you to check it out. It's an all-day event from 9:30 to 4:30, and we're going to be in playful groups, exploring intimate connections through fantasy play. And for anyone that identifies as gay, bi, pan, trans, queer, and heterofluid, it's a really good event to come together. I've taken other workshops by Finn, and the growth factor that I got just in one workshop was extraordinary, and I'm really excited to be a part of this. And I think we all need this. Spring is just around the corner, and we are always working on our sexuality. And if it could be led by somebody like a Finn Dearheart, yes, absolutely. If you're watching it live, I'll put it in the chat, and you can check it out if you happen to be in the New York area or want to come for this particular event.
Come.
Absolutely.
Do you need any help? I can help too.
Yes, I will get that done for you. And you can also go to tagspodcast.com. It's on our front page there, and check out all the information. Okay, well, we've got to talk about a show that I'm sure most of you have watched at some point. I watched like the first season. Is Love is Blind, And the current season on Love is Blind star Sarah Carton made it to the altar with the guy that she was interested in, only to basically say, sorry, I can't marry you. And she went viral for jilting the lover at the altar. Why? Because she claims he didn't, when she asked him about Black Lives Matter, he said he didn't really know much about it. And when she asked him about LGBTQ issues, he said, well, I've never really thought about that either. And she thought of it to be a little bit ignorant. And she says, I can't be with somebody that is that way. Now, a lot of people have been accusing her of really shaming him at the altar and that was cruel. But I say no, because that's the name of the game. Have you watched this show? It makes for good TV. The name of the game is, are they going to get married or not? And they follow these couples that are in these pods that really don't know each other to begin with, that ultimately, if they choose to go to the altar, she just chose to make good TV. And I bet, Kodi, her viral comment is going to, for her inclusivity, she's going to get some contracts and go move on. So I think she knew exactly what she was doing. But it begs the question, how well do you know your partner? And are there certain things that would be a deal breaker? And I say that off the heels of Michelle Obama. How does Michelle Obama and Love is Blind come together? Well, Michelle Obama has a brand new podcast that I can't wait to listen to. And on the first episode, she had her brother. And when she was sharing a story about the early days of her and Barack Obama dating, she said, she told her brother, I don't do late. She said the Robinson family, and her brother chimed in, oh yeah, the Robinson family doesn't do late. If you're early, you're late. And she said Barack in the early days, for a 3:00 appointment to head out the door, he was like going to the bathroom, he was looking for his glasses, and she was like, oh no, that's not going to work. And her brother said, oh yeah, he was on island time, which I thought was really funny.
I'm always on island time. I was 45 minutes late here today.
You were late here. And it got me thinking about things that you put up with. Well, I am now engaged and with Diego, my partner, and there's been some compromises. One thing though is, if we have to be somewhere, he is really good at being on time. And over the last several years, I used to be notoriously late, like you.
Damn, girl.
But I don't know what happened to me. I switched. A lot had to do with one of our mutual friends, or one of our girlfriends, that if we said drinks at my place at 6:30, she was here at 6:15. And I started to realize, I'm still like blow drying the hair. I got to get it together. So she actually got me to, I'm like, if she can get her hair and makeup done and that gorgeous outfit and come from uptown all the way to my place and be ready to go, I can get ready and so she's a big part of the reason that I am now on time and early. I'm actually Michelle Obama. I'm not early because early is late. I am actually on time by being early. And it works out with my relationship.
Okay.
And I do think that can be a biggie, because I've been in relationships before where if one of you is like holding the other one up, it's not a good thing. How do you weigh in on this? And we'll discuss some more things about compatibility.
Well, I'm always late. So I'm always the late one in the relationship. And that's okay with me. I have come to know myself. And if somebody really loves me, they're going to know me inside and outside. And they're going to be able to work with it, not necessarily accept it or be wholeheartedly behind it, but they'll know how to work with it. And they'll lie to me and tell me that the meeting is earlier if they want to. And that works for me.
Well, Bryce watching us live says something that's fairly important. If you show up early, you have to help set up. Okay, here's my caveat to that rule. Do not show up to somebody's party gathering early. You will stress out that host. And I've had people show up too early now I am early now, so I'm usually ready to go. But in the old days, you can stress a host out and you don't want to do that. So I went to my doctor's appointment, Dr. Goldstein, and Diego dropped me off. I was 20 minutes early. Did I go? I could have probably sat in the lobby. I just walked around the neighborhood to see what restaurants were there, because one of the little known fact is I love finding out new spots that I want to like either sit at the bar or try that restaurant. I just like walked around, sipped my coffee, and 5 minutes before the appointment, I buzzed and went into the appointment. And I just sat on the couch. I had time to go to the restroom, and I was on time. So to your point, Bryce, do not show up early to a host, because that to me is just as rude as showing up late. And I don't like that either.
Well, so what is the? I'm curious.
You're like confused. The rules.
Don't show up late. Don't show up early. What can I do? What is the time? The specific. If I say 9 o'clock, there's a time for the party. The party's going down. What time should I arrive?
Okay, I'm just talking about for appointments.
8:59.
Like curtain call. I'm talking about curtain calls, dinner reservations, doctor's appointments. You need to show up on time. For things like a party, no. Don't show up early. If the party starts at 9, I say show up within the hour and you are good to go.
Oh, yeah, I can show up at 9:15. Because I mean,
absolutely.
Generally speaking, only 15 minutes late everywhere.
Yeah.
But if it's a show, then I'm on time, because
we all have our friends that, you get that text like, I'm running late, and we all know who you are out there. Yeah, but I say, listen, if you're early, have a cocktail, chill.
Yeah,
they'll get there when they're gonna. You're gonna look fresh and glowing while you're sipping your cocktail, and you get to like check your Instagram and do all that good stuff. They're going to be the ones that are stressed out. So,
right. Are you writing a book? Because I need to know these rules. I need
right?
These rules down on paper so I can read them sometime.
But there are certain things that you got to consider, back to the Love is Blind, that can be not necessarily deal breakers, but I'll just share a couple of things. Like, I mean, if I found out that, well, I wouldn't probably find out that my person was not for,
racist?
Racist, that would be a big deal. Yeah,
mama, it happens. Okay?
Yeah, no. So see, that would be like a red flag. But recently with Diego, I'm a former Catholic. I went to Catholic school my whole life. Diego also went to Catholic school his whole life. He still practices things like currently Lent, which we are in right now. I support him in that, even though I don't practice Lent anymore.
What did you do?
I'm not practicing Lent anymore. I'm spiritual, but I'm supporting him in his quest. And to me, that's something that, on a smaller level, like little things. He doesn't believe in a dishwasher. You don't either.
I don't. I don't
know what's with my friends. I throw all my dishes in there and turn on that dishwasher. He's like, why you want to waste all the time on that? And he likes to sit there and wash. You do too. I don't get it.
It helps me think.
Welcome to the 21st century. There's a thing called a dishwasher.
The water is very helpful to me in my mindset, and it helps me process.
Yeah. I'm like,
it is what it is.
Taking a shower with the dishwasher going while you guys are washing those dishes sitting over there. To each his own. I mean, but there are, or do you have red flags of certain things that, I mean, racism, obviously. But
that's the number one. If you are unkind to people just because of their skin color, or if you're just any ism at all, if you're ableist, if you're just any of the things that are discrediting people based on their situation in life or their status in life, that is a veritable red flag for me. You have no standing in my life. And you would be surprised at how many people date Black people and they're still racist on the inside. So it happens a lot. I have dated so many people that are racist, and not knowing it, and they're carrying all of this systemic things that they hold, and they didn't know, and I had to stop dating them. So it's really weird. And
those kinds of issues, when it comes to race and culture, you really do need to spend a little bit more time to figure out where people stand on what side of the fence. Because if you find, those, we are. I know you very well. You know me very well. Those are like deal breakers.
For sure. That's why I'm proud of this young lady, because she stood on what she believes, and she knows that she can't have someone that does not necessarily stand against these things. Because if you don't stand against it, then inevitably you stand for it.
And for those calling her out, like she did this on national TV, it's a TV show. And guess what? We're talking about it. And these are the conversations that people need to have before they get into a marriage that could be really awful. So I think she's doing the work for us to have these conversations so we don't end up at the altar and realize, I don't want to marry you.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break from the episode to remind you to head over to our Tags Patreon community where you get extra special sexy content. Go ahead and grab a free tier to begin with and get behind the scenes coverage that you won't get on any of our social media. If you feel inclined, grab a tier. You can also buy individual posts as well as a free member. So go ahead, head on over to patreon.com/tags podcast. That's patreon.com/tags podcast.
Okay, well, let's move on to...
I've said that before. I don't want to marry you.
Well, thank God I want to marry Diego, and I'm happy about that. There is a really cool website called them.us, and there was a recent in-depth article that I will post on tagspodcast.com, and it has to do with how to finger 101. You heard me right. Ooh. Everything you need to know from technique to lube, and it's written by a female, Giuseppe Lopez, and she goes through things that might seem obvious, but I feel maybe they're worth going over. So here's some of the things, and then we'll just discuss.
Okay.
How do I finger? She says, when you're brushing up on fingering somebody, whether it is an ass or it's a vagina, that here are some of the things that you want to do. Talk before you walk the walk. The best way to know, she says, what your partner likes while getting fingered is asking them directly. What a concept. Remember, asking doesn't make you look unknowledgeable or inexperienced. It actually means the opposite. You're going directly to the best expert. And while that can seem a little clinical to ask somebody, like, I think you can ask them, do you like this? Do you like that? Does this feel good? And there's ways to change your voice so that it sounds a little bit more sexy.
I speak it to the microphone.
Yes, exactly. And are you comfortable with asking somebody if they like being fingered, or do you disagree with her that it's a little bit, well?
So everyone is different. So I've had sex with a lot of people. I don't know if you know this about me.
That's why you're on the show, honey.
But I've come across so many people, and some of them like to be fingered, and some of them just absolutely hate it. So I think this is a wonderful way to start the conversation concerning sex. So just basically talking to somebody about what they like. It doesn't mean that you're inexperienced. It means that you care about what they like and how they prefer to be seduced. And loved and rubbed up on. So
seduction is a really good thing, and I think to prolong the experience, if you know that it's ultimately going to lead into intercourse, I think fingering, and why this article is really important that I want you to check out, it's kind of a 101, and it's really foreplay, if you will, because I haven't liked fingering in the past by certain people because they basically wanted to put a dry finger up my ass, and it hurt. And anything, as much as I was into them, as much as I was looking forward to this experience, all of that went away because they were jamming up a dry finger up, and my mind was out of the situation. Yeah. And so things that she say that can make it is forget about like actually fingering, but working around the area. So if it's a vagina or if it's a hole, all of the sensitive areas around there are so sensitive, and you can actually ignite all those areas, and you can prolong the experience to be very foreplay like. She says things, prepare your equipment. When she says prepare your equipment, she's talking about both sides. So if you are the one fingering, wash your hands by all means.
And clip your nails.
My goodness, I know. I always clip my nails and file them down. But one of the things she says that is hilarious, because if you cook like I do, I cook with a lot of jalapenos and spices. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, Kodi, but have you ever cut a jalapeno up? And I like the seeds in there too. And then went to the toilet to pee and put my hand on my dick to pee, but then washed my hands after I pissed, only to find out that that doesn't go away even after you wash your hands, and that my dick was like burning.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful. Can you imagine if you're trying to finger somebody after like cutting up? I mean, my Diego and I laugh about this because he loves garlic so much and onion. And we were trying to figure out, like, wait, do your hands smell of onions? Do mine smell of onion the other day? And we were using so much of both. And we don't really care, but we were like, where is this onion garlic smell coming from that we haven't been cooking for hours? And it was just hilarious. But I mean, you just got to prepare the equipment. But by preparing the equipment too, also prepare your hole as well too. If you're going to go down there, like if you're not ready to be fingered, tell the person, right? We can do other things too. The most important thing that I can't talk enough about is use lube. She says consider using lube. I say always use lube. Yeah. Lube should always be used. Dr. Goldstein would 100% advocate for lube and the importance of lube, that a dry dick or a dry finger can do damage to that area, and it can cause irritants that you do, unwanted ones that you don't need. Next up, start slow. Yeah, nobody wants, even if it's a dick or a finger, to ram it up there. Use that time as time to really get like sensual, get with your partner. It can be a really hot time, and you can elongate the experience by taking it slow. Warm up and ease into it. Well, that goes along with the last one. And ask how you're doing. Don't be afraid to check in with your partner. I wish some of the guys have asked me in the past, because I would say, ow, it's hurting too much. It's not good. And lastly, position matters. How you position your fingers before you put them in can make a total difference on that. What do you say to some of these things? And she also says consider using toys.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all of them. The one that I align with the most is the one about asking how people are doing. That's a sign of a good top.
Yeah.
And I consider myself a good top. I ask people constantly if I feel like they're a little bit uncomfortable. I'm probably a little bit annoying sometimes, honestly. But it's neither here nor there. I want to make sure that my bottom is having the most pleasurable experience possible. So that one is a definite for me. So yeah, I think it's a great list. I look forward to reading it over again.
And, you know, a lot of cues can come from asking, of course, like she states, but you can also get used to body language and get used to reading an expression. I mean, if you're really in tune with your partner, you'll know if they're really enjoying it or not. If they're wincing and squinting their eyes, chances are they're not liking that much. And then you can follow up. Oh, is that too hard? How would you like it? And go with that. But don't be afraid to read body language and facial expressions that I think too many of us have gotten away from, that we need to really, I mean, I read, you know, I'm a communications major. We do a podcast. Part of what we do is language and reading other people. And I think that it's a lost language, but it can help with your hot sex, like we say at the end of every show.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right. Those are some great things. I'll post it on tagspodcast.com. And let's move on to an article. Spring, summer is just around the corner. I kicked up my workouts a little bit more.
Trying to get it together.
And there was a recent article that asked the question, is there a difference between gay muscle and straight muscle? But the gay internet said, yes, there is. And like I said, everybody is trying to get back into shape. And a highly followed poster on social media made the observation that gay muscle and straight muscle are wildly different concepts. Quote, it's very interesting how you can look at a physically fit guy and immediately tell if it's a gay muscle or a straight muscle, he wrote. That's really interesting to me. And a lot of the things had to do with Straight muscle has to do with bulking up and a more emphasis on the upper body, where gay muscle is a little bit more perhaps lean and an emphasis on legs and of course the booty. Ooh. And I would agree with all of those. It got me thinking a little bit, is there really a difference? But I would say yes, because I've seen some of my straight counterparts that do focus heavily on like big back, big chest, but then maybe the midsection isn't as pronounced, and that's fine. But I would disagree with a lot of the respondents on this when it has to do with millennials and younger. Case in point, I was in the gym just yesterday and I was working out, and at the end of my workout, I saw a younger guy that I've seen in the gym before. He's about, I want to say 27, about 6'2", totally bro straight guy.
What his name is?
Jacob. Shout out to Jacob. And he had the headphones on, and I wrote him off as like, oh yeah, a bro type that is ignoring me. And I saw him come in. I was finishing my workout. He was moving around doing his workout, and I was doing those hanging leg raises, where you grab the pull-up bar, and I do mine where I'm hanging, and I'm about to do this on our Patreon page, by the way, to show you how to work up to hanging leg raises. I'm going to show you all different ways. Talk about that in a minute. But I basically had my feet go all the way up, practically touch my nose, and then come down. And I did 3 sets of 10. And then I finished, and then I went over to go stretch. Well, this guy, the one that I wrote off as like, straight bro, was walking up towards me as I was about to leave, like in my direction. And it's a small gym in my building. He walks up to me and we both have our earbuds, and he takes his earbuds and he says, bro, can you tell me how you do those leg raises? And I was like, oh, wow, he wants advice from me. And I told him how I did it and gave him the advice that I did. But he was definitely a straight bro that wanted that, that muscular lower hip flexor look that the gays really like. So I would disagree with this article that millennials and younger want more of that gay body type versus maybe some of the older straights.
So you told this young man how you're so good at raising your legs above your head. Is that what you're telling me?
I told him how to do the exercise.
Oh, the exercise.
Yes,
sorry.
Exactly.
Okay, now I'm clear. So I agree with you. I think that as far as aesthetics are concerned, I know that the gay aesthetic has permeated Hollywood and all of our social media, and it's just everywhere. So I feel like a lot of younger people subscribe to that aesthetic.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. The older generation, they definitely just want that to be bulky up top. I feel like I have fallen into that as well, because I used to never work out legs. I just have a natural...
No, you have Kodi has like a natural booty.
It's natural.
Yeah.
It's just a natural...
Well, then, hey, but if you have that, then I think that's great. You don't have to work on it as much. I had more of like the leaner, but so I do a lot of butt exercises, and as a result, I have more of a booty, but only because I had to work on it. If you have it naturally, then thank your lucky stars.
But my titties were small before. Now,
here we go.
Now they're much larger. But before, I had to work on them a lot, and that's why I emphasize working on my upper body a lot, because I didn't have to work that hard for my butt. So it's all about, for me, it's all about like your body personally, and you have to just know your body.
Yeah, you do. But I would argue that the straight guys need to work on those booties a little bit more too, because women like a nice booty as well.
But we'll be confused. I'm trying not to be confused. I need for all the nice booties to be on the gay man. Thank you very much.
I love it. Okay, well, we love giving advice on this show, and tonight is no different. Is this the one you wanted to do first?
Let's do that one.
Okay. So this one comes from Reddit, and they wrote euphoric _SEA 2404 wrote, I'm tired and bored of seeing thirst traps on these dating apps. Are you not? They continue to write, someone reminded me yesterday how redundant and emotionally inefficient these gay dating apps can be. all of them, actually, most just enable a perpetual hookup culture. We essentially corrupted their function and purpose. Sure, sex is exciting, but there are more to explore in life as romantic beings.
Aww.
As a single 31-year-old, he writes, and gay, I don't find thirst trap impressions impressive when I'm seeking someone whom I'm interested in talking to, hanging out with, or dating. Have we lost the importance of engaging with each other's interesting minds, cultures, and worlds? Do we instead find more pleasure in seeking temporary, meaningless, and frivolous gratification? Stimulation in a romantic sense has more than one meaning. I went through some of the comments on this particular one, and some people said, when you only have one shot, it's like a marketing thing. You have to put your best foot forward. And if the thing we're talking about, the app, is the name of the game is putting out a thirst trap, then you put out a thirst trap. So I kind of agreed with that person too, that if you're using the apps, you kind of have to put your best picture forward, and don't get mad at all the thirst traps. People are just trying to be sexy and look the best they can. Put your best sexy picture out. Now, in our meeting, you had a sort of a different scenario.
But first, I want to say that I agree with the poster. I think that people are afraid of vulnerability, and generally speaking, of course, and they're afraid of having that genuine connection and feeling, actual real love. So for me, that has been my experience. So I think that is why the hookup culture is so pervasive in the gay world, and just in the world in general, honestly. But for me personally, when I have been on the dating apps, I had a huge thirst trap up on my dating app beforehand, and it was me in a jock strap. I was posing in that window right over here, practically naked, and I wasn't getting the engagement that I thought I would get. When I put on a shirt and a hat and I was in the gym looking like I actually was doing something, that is when I got more engagement. It was really strange to me because I didn't understand why people were more attracted to seeing me with more clothes on as opposed to seeing me with less clothes on. So I didn't really get it. But
well, listen, to your point, nobody wants to, with everything like fake bots out there, and is this person really real? You can look too modelly type. I'm saying,
okay.
Not saying that, but is this really Kodi that I'm talking to, or did he grab this hot picture of this guy? So to the point, to agree with you a little bit, and to your point where you actually did this experiment and found that when you put on a more gym friendly, like, hey, I go to the gym, and more of a quote unquote real life picture, yes, still sexy, but more real life, versus a such thirst trapped out modelly picture that, is this really who I'm talking to? And are they so lit and modeled out that, do they really look like this? Or am I really talking to this person? I agree with the poster that, put your best foot picture out there, but also don't get so modeled out that you become catfish potentially, and people don't even believe that it's really you. So,
accessible.
And I think I haven't had a lot of experience using the apps in the past. I mean, and to this person's point, the way I met Diego was at a bar that I go to. And while I was intrigued and attracted to him when I first went up to him and started the conversation, much of our conversation was about getting to know each other and finding out, like, how often do we go here? And I learned, I think on that first time or the second time, that he was this avid hiker. And those started to become interesting sparks for me that you don't always get on those apps. So I feel for the person, because I feel like they really want to meet somebody that is going to spark their interest. And that's what we got to say on that.
I just did it.
Thank you. And lastly, we couldn't end with one of our favorite segments, because it's back and it's produced by Straight Up Gay Porn. And they're asking the question, who out of these 15 gay porn stars took the best photo? And it's our job on an audio podcast to describe who and why. I'll go first, and I chose Braxton Cruz. Oh my goodness. Braxton, chocolate, African American, has one right elbow up and has this beautiful smile that he's taking it in the mirror. And he's just got this great hairy chest and these ripped abs and this really good Asian tattoo on his right hip flexor. But then you get down to this really beautiful thick dick that just looks like it was untouched. And I don't know, I want to touch it. It's
made at a museum or something.
Oh my God, it's really gorgeous. That, you know, it's not too big, it's not too small. It's just like,
it might be a little too big for me.
It's big. No, it's nice and thick.
He's
and
cute. I'll
even.
pet it like a puppy.
I don't know, there's something about Braxton in this picture that looks inviting, and he looks like,
he looks super sweet.
Besides all of this,
He's so hot.
He's so nice. He looks so cool. I voted for him. Braxton Cruz gets my vote. Who gets your vote?
My vote goes to Just Petito, and nothing about him is Petito. He has his hands behind his head, and his elbows are raised, and he just has his whole body shown. It's hairy, it's delicious. His cock is nice and thick, and he has his legs widespread. It's just a great picture. I want to take a picture like this. Every time I choose mine, I'm like, who do I want to emulate?
Oh.
What do I want to do?
What thirst picture do you want to put up there?
Exactly. So it's just more motivation for my own thirst trap of an Instagram. So I look for a picture like this from Just Petito because it's beautiful.
Well, let us know how you weigh in. I'll post this on tagspodcast.com. Reference episode 648. And so much fun in studio together, side by side here on this episode. Couldn't do it without you. You can always follow Kodi on the gram at Mr. Maurice, but you can also follow him on Blue Sky at the same handle at Mr. Maurice. Follow me on the gram. I am _ Steve V, but also go to my X or Blue Sky account at Tags Podcast, where you get a preview of my Just for Fans or Only Fans. And don't forget our Patreon, new content coming out there. And when you support us, you're supporting the show. Go to patreon.com/Tags Podcast. And Kodi, in the meantime, continue having hot gay sex. Lovely. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, virtual audience.
Love you guys.